Good evening and welcome to the Dish on Divorce. I'm Jennifer Barkin. Tonight, Leanne is not with me. She is going to be in a trial, so I'm alone tonight. And I'm very happy to introduce a very special guest, Hilary Linton. Hi, Hilary. Good evening.
Hi, Jennifer.
Thank you for being on the show. It's your second time. We had some sound production problems the first time. Hopefully, we're in better shape today. I don't anticipate a problem. So, for my viewers, Hilary is the president of 393 Mediate, which is also known as Toronto Family Mediation Services. Hilary is an arbitrator, a lawyer, an excellent family mediator, and a trainer. So she teaches students and people about mediation, amongst other things. So welcome.
Thank you.
So Hilary, how did Toronto Family Mediation Services evolve? How did you get involved with it?
So Toronto Family Mediation Services is one of many providers of government-funded family mediation across Ontario. Many years ago, well over 20 years ago, the government of Ontario decided to provide free mediation for people who were in court and subsidized mediation for everybody. A really good investment, in my view, in access to justice, because so many people, whether they're in court or not, are interested in trying to see if they can negotiate a settlement themselves. More recently, the government expanded these government-funded services across the whole province, including to Toronto. And so I became the service provider in Toronto. So that means ensuring that there are mediators who are qualified and skilled in the 3 Toronto courts, the Superior Court of Justice at 361 University in downtown, and then the 2 Ontario Courts of Justice at 47 Shepherd Avenue and 311 Jarvis Street. So we have free mediation for people who are in court in all those 3 locations, as well as offering subsidized mediation to everybody. So, I mean, to answer your question specifically, I got involved when the government expanded the services and put out requests for proposals. So I, like many others, bid on these contracts and was chosen to provide them.
Excellent. So you mentioned court-based mediation services, or people that have a court case going on. To a lot of people, when people are going to court, it's pretty volatile, contentious. People aren't communicating very well. Can mediation be successful for people who are in a court process?
It's a good question. I mean, it really depends on how you define success, right? We consider mediation successful if it gives 2 people a chance to have a conversation of some kind. We find, in particular during COVID, so many people are under so much stress and they're not even talking to one another. They're operating in silos in such stressful circumstances. And so if we can give people an opportunity, it's on Zoom, to at least connect and have a conversation and express their frustrations to one another, even if they're not on the same screen. Right? We may keep them in separate rooms and move back and forth, but to enable some kind of communication at this difficult time, that itself can be such a safety valve for people. So if you set the bar really low, if you want to look at it that way, yes, it's hugely successful. But I'll tell you, we're getting, first of all, we're busy. Because people are seeing this as, if not an alternative to court, something that they can do as well as court. So something that they can use to try and settle small parts of their court case as they go through the court system. We're getting a lot of people coming and doing that, and people like it. We get high satisfaction rates. Clients are very satisfied with this service because it is not judging. It's an open service. It costs nothing. And it really speaks to what people need, which is to be heard to have an opportunity to talk about the things that are really important to them, to see if they can make settlements that speak to their needs and their own children's needs, as opposed to having somebody make the decision for them. So it's a very respectful, a process of self-determination, very empowering for people, and very safe because we screen, of course, for domestic violence and power imbalances. So we pay a lot of attention to all of these things. Um, so yeah, it's a good service, and I would like everybody going to court to know about it and to consider trying it.
I think it's a terrific service, not only because I'm on the roster there, it is a terrific service. Um, in family mediation, particularly, like when you think of the parenting plan piece, there can be so many decisions that have to be made or that people should consider when they make a good parenting plan that's going to keep them out of court down the road and to keep the peace in the family and it's better for the children. So I tell people that mediation is successful even if you don't settle all your issues and you settle a couple of those issues. Less to go to court, your legal fees overall are going to go down. So it's a win-win. There's nothing to lose.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you. That's how I see it as well. And I mean, I met with two new clients today, and so many clients, they're just facing so many obstacles right now. So many parents are struggling with their kids being at home, not collecting their regular income. So much has changed, and so much of it is outside of people's control. So we're dealing with so many parents, uh, whose struggles are real. And when people are in distress, they tend to make attributions about the other parent, that may not be correct, right? But it's human nature. It's a cognitive distortion that we have. We tend to attribute the worst possible scenario, to other people when we're not communicating with them, or when we don't trust them, or when things have broken down, and we see a lot of that. And what we can do as mediators is speak to each of them, reassure them each that this can be a very safe place for them to have some difficult conversations, to see if they can break down some of these barriers and just make some progress on some of these things. It's such a relief for so many people to realize that it might actually be possible to make some progress in ways that they didn't think. So that's what we do as mediators. It's great work.
I think that when people are in distress, they automatically start digging their heels and assuming the worst. And it spirals. So the communication between people is terrible. COVID's been a nightmare for many families. Um, just our whole world flipped overnight. They did tell us it would be 2 weeks, and it doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon. So a lot of people are in the same house even together and going through all of this conflict. And I find it interesting when I speak to clients that call me, there's this assumption with people just thinking about separating and divorcing that I'm going to go to trial and I'm going to get some sort of resolution soon, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. So it can be a very long process because unless it's a dire emergency, this can take a very long time. What can mediation offer families that are in limbo?
I mean, aside from the opportunity to start working out their own settlement, we spend a lot of time working with people to connect them to resources in their community, or otherwise. So a lot of people haven't connected with a lawyer yet. They don't know how to find legal support. They can't afford a lawyer. They don't understand, what their options are. So we spend a lot of time helping people understand that. We work with people who are in very difficult circumstances. We start every mediation with a confidential and private intake meeting with each person to find out what their circumstances are and what their needs are. There's high rates of people living with family violence, living with mental illness, living with deep, profound depression. living with such uncertainty and so much fear. So this is so destabilizing and disruptive for people. So we spend a lot of time working with people who may not be ready to negotiate yet, but who could become ready if they get the supports they need. So we will refer them to counseling agencies or domestic violence organizations or men's organizations or parenting supports. We will refer them to various counseling resources available for their children. We'll refer them to organizations in their culture, in their community, people who will get what they're dealing with and help bring them up so that whether they are able to negotiate eventually with the other person or not, they can be themselves in just a better, stronger, healthier place. As difficult as this time has been, a lot of good has come in our field, in the legal field, in the mediation field, in the therapy and resources field. I mean, I'm a lawyer as well as a mediator, and I was just on a call earlier tonight with the judges in some of the courts, and it's so impressive, what courts are doing to adapt to COVID, what judges are doing, but people don't often know this. And so, as mediators, we can just help inform people and educate them and connect them to supports and resources that will empower them to hopefully be able to settle some issues with the other parent, or just be able to go forth in their court case, feeling better and more capable and more ready.
And that's one of the things that I really love about 393 Mediate or Toronto Family Mediation Services. I'm going to clarify. Originally called 393 Mediate, now really referred to as Toronto Family Mediation Services. But if you Google, they'll come up under both. But I really am amazed by the amounts of supports that are out there. And you make it so easy for people to know about these, because when you're under stress and you're going through a divorce and you have all of these things going on, sometimes not everybody's a researcher. So just having the service to say, here, there's this, there's that, can really empower people.
Yeah, and I think we don't necessarily have a culture of thinking mediation, right? In family law, in our judicial system, this is an adversarial legal system. So when people, encounter a legal problem, they've been conditioned to think litigation, right? I don't think we're quite as bad as the States, but we're still a fairly litigious culture. So helping people understand that mediation actually is a viable alternative in so many cases. That alone is a tough step, but an important one to help people get past. I mean, I really commend the government for spending some tax dollars on funding this kind of service. It's comprehensive. Other provinces aren't doing it to the same degree, and I think we're extraordinarily lucky here. If you look at the people on our roster, and the name of the website is actually mediate393.ca. So, and there's a long story to why that's the name, but mediate393.ca is the website. And if you look at the roster of mediators that we have, you included, Jennifer, it's a really impressive group of people. They speak a whole pile of different languages. They are lawyers, they are mental health professionals, they are financial professionals. This is a skilled group of people. And this is all because of a government program that is intended to help people minimize conflict and move forward for the sake of their children. And that is the primary goal of this, is it's child focused. And it's designed to recognize that the conflict between parents, the fighting, the arguing, the putting kids in the middle, the using kids as messengers, the parents kind of projecting their own grief or despair or fear or anxiety onto their children and arguing over the kids, that does so much harm. That does more harm to children in many cases than the divorce or the separation ever did. And so the government has recognized that and has said, we are going to encourage people to try and work in a peaceful, collaborative process of mediation and settle what they can, if they can, right? If it's an appropriate case for mediation. And the if's really important. Not every case is suitable. Not every couple, not every set of parents should be mediating. We have many situations where because of whether it's domestic violence or mental health challenges or other barriers, people's personalities, they're just not good candidates for a voluntary process of self-determination. So we screen very carefully to make sure that we won't do any harm by bringing people into the mediation process.
Are you finding through screening people that since COVID, the domestic violence has escalated?
I'm not really noticing that myself. I find that a surprisingly large number of people coming to us at the mediation service disclose abuse and violence, more than probably most people might realize. And I think part of what we do is because this intake meeting is confidential and it's informed, we take a lot of training in this, in this material, in this subject, as we need to. So we create a safe space for people to disclose their concerns and their fears to us. And we've always done that. The statistics suggest that there has been a significant escalation in intimate partner violence during the lockdown, during COVID, during the stay at home, during the kids home at school. And it makes sense because the pressures on families coming from all directions have escalated: financial, emotional, everything. So it doesn't surprise me when I read that domestic violence has increased. But it is something that our service is so well equipped to support, and because it's a non-judging service, we really believe in the safety of the whole family. We work very carefully with survivors of domestic violence to ensure that they have safety plans, that they've got supports, that they've got resources. And we also do not, people who are alleged to have engaged in domestic violence or committed domestic violence, we support them too, right? We ensure that they have supports. We ensure that both parties are capable of participating in a process that's going to be beneficial to the family. And we don't take the case if we can't feel confident about that.
It's interesting. Today I had a phone call in my private practice, and this woman was saying, that she spoke to a family therapist and she wanted therapy for her children. And she was a survivor of domestic violence. The children had had broken bones by the ex-partner. And the therapist that she was speaking to was suggesting reunification therapy for the family, and that the whole family had to work together with the abuser. And there were court orders. And I'd never heard of such a thing, of putting the abuser in the room. So I think that is so important when your service has a roster that is so well trained and so aware that it's very important for people to be careful where you go.
Yeah.
Ensure that people are aware of these things.
The organization supporting women and men who have experienced intimate partner violence have done an incredible job during this pandemic of meeting the need. You talk to the people who are running these organizations. They're not just dealing with increases in domestic violence; they're dealing with the overlap of racism and domestic violence. They're dealing with the overlap of the disproportionate impact of COVID on people of color, vulnerable communities, and domestic violence. So when you add up all these layers of disadvantage, my heart goes out to the people who are working day in and day out with women, children, and men sometimes are survivors as well. You look at the intersections of people, who are, gay, lesbian, the LGBTQ community, already has higher rates of domestic violence than in, say, conventional heterosexual communities. And then you add on again all the other layers, right, of race, racism, and poverty, and the disproportionate impact of COVID on marginalized communities. And that's where I'm grateful to be on this program, and I'm gratified to hear your nice comments about our work. But really, the people doing the hard work are those organizations, the people in those organizations, and we work with them. We send our clients to them for supports. It's amazing what is out there. It's amazing what people are doing to help the most vulnerable people during this time. And I am humbled. I am truly humbled by it because it's such important work. Um,
It really
so
is.
so we work with, really low income, we work with people who can't afford lawyers. The majority of our clients do not have lawyers. They can't afford it. Our subsidized rates are intended for people who do not have much money. And we are
That was going to
providing,
be my next question to you about the subsidy,
yeah. Yeah, so
what that looks
it's
like.
heavily subsidized, and the rates are as low as $5 an hour. And I mean, the client that I met today, the mom will be paying $5 an hour. Part of it is free. So the intake meeting that I had with each parent for about an hour and a half costs nothing, and then after that, her rate is $5 an hour, and I believe his rate will be something in the range of $70 an hour because he earns more money. But those are still dramatically lower rates than what you would pay a private mediator. And these are, generally people who may be on a legal aid certificate or may not have a lawyer at all. The other thing I was just going to mention is the proliferation, the growth of online resources at this time. We work very carefully with all of the websites out there that are giving information to the public. And it's really important for people to be aware of them. Organizations like Community Legal Education Ontario, for example, CLEO, CLEO.on.ca. Fantastic resource that everybody should know about, just to get information about separation, divorce, domestic violence, safety plans, right? People going through this process, whether it's court, mediation, whatever it is, many people could use a safety plan, whether it's for domestic violence or mental health challenges, or just a personal safety plan is a really good thing to have. The domestic violence organizations have great resources out there. There's one of the resources that's evolved during the pandemic is a website developed by the Redwood Shelter in Toronto. It's called idetermine.ca, idetermine.ca. Everybody should know about this site because you're nodding your head. I know you know about it, right? It's a
I know it.
really quick and reliable risk assessment tool for people who are going through a separation and have concerns
And it's
around.
a self-assessment tool, and that's what makes it interesting, that anybody who thinks, is this normal? Am I imagining things? Because, domestic violence, as you know, it's not just kicking, hitting, spitting, shoving. There's coercive control, there's financial abuse, and all of these things. So when you have a tool like they put out, a self-assessment tool, that can be very helpful to give somebody that aha moment that I'm in trouble here.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It just holds up a mirror, and it's so non-judging, right? And this is the thing we find. So many people going through separation are carrying so many complex emotions, whether there was domestic violence or not. They're carrying grief, they're carrying guilt, they're carrying shame, right? I mean, I've spoken to people who, especially if they come from a culture where divorce or separation is considered to be shameful, right? And you're maybe a person of a certain age, and you're not supposed to be on your own anymore. And so, these may be people who don't have a lot of supports from their home or from their community because they're feeling shamed or embarrassed or humiliated. And you have people who are terrified, people whose anxiety disorders or their depression has just escalated during this pandemic. And and they're going through a divorce on top of it. I mean, so you're right. I mean, the more we can give people resources, whether it's self-assessment resources or just other things that are out there, to say to them, you know, you're not alone. You are not alone. You are in good company, and this can be better. We have in one of the things that we provide in this service, not only do we provide mediation services, but we also provide information services. So everybody who's going through a court process in Ontario has to attend something called the Mandatory Information Program, which we're now delivering online. But this is optional for anybody. It's available. It's free, and it's a good program. And I would love to see more people just coming to it and taking away that information. And we also have professionals called information and referral coordinators who are available every single day by phone, 9 to 5. And you can contact us at mediate393.ca or by phone. The phone number is 416-593-5393. Or you can email us info@mediate393.ca, and we will connect you with an information specialist, a referral, a resource specialist. And you can talk to them about whatever your concerns are, whether it's you're having trouble navigating court forms or getting through the court system, or you need a lawyer, or you need to know about legal resources, or you need counseling, or you need to find supervised access for your children, or you need an interpreter, you need, you name it, parenting supports, groups for men, community
Addiction
organizations.
support.
What's that?
Addiction support.
Correct. Addiction, exactly. Substance use organizations, everything. We can help with that. And so the information and referral coordinators are, again, one of these just great gems of a resource that are available at this time to people every day by phone. Right. And I think one of the things we're finding is people who are going through this distress are having a hard time, connecting with a human being. This is as close we get, right, to interpersonal contact, this screen. But this is great, really, compared to what most people are finding, which is really struggling to connect with a person at all. And so it's telephone contact for the IRC. But it's a great resource and accessible. Somebody will call you back really quickly. Oh yeah, it's a great service.
I present the MIP, Mandatory Information Program, so I can say it's an excellent program. I've sent people I know to attend the MIP. I say just call, because it's broken into two parts. How the family court system works is the first part, and then the second part gives some very valuable information about things like parenting and how can you communicate with your high conflict ex, and what do you do if somebody's texting you nonstop, or and it really provides this information, and again, it's free with some excellent tools. So I think it's fabulous.
Yeah. And again, it also allows you to connect with a person who can help you further if you have specific questions. So yeah.
Well, I'm so happy that we were able to have you, or that I was able to have you today, and because you are just a wealth of valuable information, and your service just helps so many people. So it's such a pleasure to have you and to speak to you. And you're so busy, so I really thank you for making the time for me today.
Thank you.
If people want to contact Toronto Family Mediation Services or 393 Mediate, what's the best way?
The best way is the website. If you have access to internet, mediate393.ca. If you just Google mediate393.ca, you'll find it. We're also listed on the Ministry of the Attorney General, the Ontario Ministry of the Attorney General website lists all the service providers. So if you want to find the service provider in your jurisdiction, if you're not in Toronto, all of the other service providers are listed on the Ministry of the Attorney General's Family Mediation webpage. So those are really good resources for people to know about. And if you don't have access to a computer, just phone us, 416-593-5393.
Well, thank you for coming tonight, Hilary. Enjoy
Yeah,
the
my
rest of your evening.
thank you.
And our viewers, and when we're aired live, you provided very helpful, useful, and terrific information. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Have a good night.
Have a good night. I'm Jennifer Barkin, and thank you for watching The Dish on Divorce.